Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Just a reminder that in the event of a fire alarm, there we have an exit to my left and then in the back. So the clerk will call the roll, please.
Supervisor Dixon,
Present.
Councilman Bauer,
Present.
Councilman Contafio,
Present.
Councilman Hanley,
Present.
Councilman Pike-Herrick.
Present.
Now we approve the minutes for the organizational meeting. Do I have so I move that we approve the minutes of the organizational meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, I have a question, just one, I'd like to make, well, one's a correction, one's a comment. Motion number one, it was about, we had the discussion about Tina Hawthorne as the town attorney. In the middle of the conversation, it says, in the course of discussion, it was clear the majority of the town board did not agree with the decision. I want to remove the word "the decision" and put in Supervisor Dixon.
Okay. Anybody else? Did you say you had something else?
One. There was a amended motion, it was about Clark Patterson Lee, and it was to create a purchase order format for that company for the free allowance of up to $75,000. Just to note to the public, we did create that purchase order.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move to approve the minutes of the January 6th town board meeting.
Second?
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Does anyone have any announcements for the public? And so, I'm sorry.
I do have one, I didn't know you, that was meant for the public. I'm sure everybody got this flyer in the mail, it went out through West Seneca. Assemblyman Burke is having an electronics recycling event. It's gonna be held January 25th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the UB South campus. I'm going to forward Amy an electronic copy. She'll put the event on the website, but anybody has any electronics, you've got new TVs for Christmas, you wanna get rid of the old ones, this is a good time to do it. It gives all the instructions, but it'll be on the website as early as tomorrow morning.
So now we move to, so the next one, the presentation of department.
I just want to know if there was a fee on that bill.
Right. No, there's no fee, but they won't take a TV if the screen is broken and you're limited to 2 items.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the next item, the presentation of department heads, that's just gonna be in the first meeting of the month, so not doing that today. So next is public comments on communications. Does anyone have any comments specifically about the 14 communications on the agenda? Okay, legal notices, any, Madam Attorney? And next, new business, I was informed that Mr. Wolf is delayed in traffic, so if he gets here later, we'll just insert him into the agenda. So we'll move on to communications. So the first is a communication from Councilman Hanley. Please reappoint Evelyn Hicks as chairwoman of the West Seneca Environmental Commission for a 2-year term effective January 1st, 2020, December 31st, 2021. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next is also from Councilman Hanley. Please appoint Andrew excuse me, is Ms. Hicks here? Okay, I just would congratulate her if she was. Please appoint Andrew Beeler as youth member to the Environmental Commission. This term is effective January 20th through December 2021. So I move to do that. Do I have a second?
Second.
All, on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is Andrew here? Okay. Next is also from Councilman Hanley, kindly move to appoint Amelia Green as zoning board of appeals effective January 23rd, 2020, and further authorize supervisor to complete and sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. This term of appointment shall be January 2020 through December 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, as people know, at the end of last year, we called for applicants for the zoning board of appeals. We had a number of very good applicants. Amelia Greenan was one of them. She was particularly good in her interview, and she has a very extensive public service experience. So I think she'll be a very good addition to the zoning board of appeals. And she wasn't the only one. The unfortunate thing is we only had one. We could only appoint one person. Does anyone else have any?
No, thank you for that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is Ms. Green in here? Next is a memo from Town Attorney Tina Hawthorne regarding the West Seneca Chamber of Commerce contract. Please see attached proposal contract between the Town of West Seneca and the West Seneca Chamber of Commerce, and resolution authorizing supervisor to execute the contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question, nothing changes here except for the timeliness of the payment. The rules stay the same. They were fronting the money, doing all the work, and then, they were borrowing money from their own funds, if you will. We're gonna pay them, and then they're gonna do the work. They still have to send the reports at the end of the quarter, just like, nothing has changed except the timeliness of their payments, that's all.
The reports that they give out, that they put out every quarter will be put on the town website for everyone to see, just to see what kind of value we're getting for our money. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have a memo from Town Attorney Tina Hawthorne, kindly authorize myself to attend the Association of Towns annual meeting and training February 16th, 2020 through February 19th, 2020, located in New York City at a cost not to exceed $2,000. There is money allocated in the Town Attorney's travel and conferences line for the budget for this purpose. The training is held by the New York State Association of Towns and is permitted by Section 77B of the General Municipal Laws, Subdivision 3 of the section permits the town board to authorize attendance to any of its members or any officer or employee or other person who has been elected pursuant to law to a public office of a municipality. Your second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is a memo from Town Attorney Tina Hawthorne, kindly adopt the attached resolution designating the voting delegate and an alternate voting delegate to cast the vote of the town at the annual business session of the Association of Towns on February 19th, 2020. Whereas the Association of Towns of the State of New York will hold the annual business session on February 19th, 2020 in the Astor Ballroom of the New York Marriott Marquis in New York City, and votes will be cast pursuant to Section 6 of Article 3 of the Constitution and bylaws of said association. Yeah. And whereas the Town Board of West Seneca has determined that it is in the best interest of West Seneca and its residents to participate in the annual business session and execute voting rights, and whereas it is necessary for the Town Board to designate a voting delegate and an alternate voting delegate of the Town of West Seneca to cast the vote of the Town of West Seneca at the annual business session, and now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of West Seneca designate Supervisor Gary A. Dixon to be the voting delegate and the Town Attorney Tina M. Hawthorne to be an alternate voting delegate. So I move that we pass the resolution. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we'll also be doing a resolution to allow me to travel, but we didn't do one yet, and I'll do that at the next meeting. Next is a memo from Tina Hawthorne, kindly adopt the attached resolution for the procurement of waste and recycling totes as requested by the highway superintendent. I've attached the bid documents and contract awarded and invoice for the proposal for the review. I won't read all the whereases. This is, the resolution is the town of West Seneca does hereby authorize and direct the highway superintendent of the town to enter into a contract with Rarig Pacific Company with terms and conditions of the solicitation and submitted bid proposal, pricing in accordance with the invoice proposal. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? So this, these are the totes that are for the four developments that were that lost condominium status last year through basically the assessor of the town corrected an error in the way that these residences were classified in the tax rolls. This resulted in a not insignificant increase in their taxes. The town agreed to start sanitation services. This was not budgeted in the budget by the previous town board, nor were, obviously, if it was not budgeted, the totes were not purchased. So when Mr. Adams took office as the highway superintendent, he saw the problem and quickly moved to address it. So that's what this is. It's purchasing 2 small totes for each residence.
That's correct. Each resident's gonna have a small 65-gallon garbage tote and recycling tote. In that purchase order, there is also an extra 150 totes for our stockyard for replacement totes, and when people wanna purchase 95-gallon recycles, or if any are broke, we have spares to fix those.
And you'll see in, when we get to communication 14, that's actually the authorization to transfer the money into the account to pay for it. Are there any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is a memo from Highway Superintendent Brian Adams. Please terminate Jerry Musial as highway laborer and appoint him as a highway motor equipment operator, Group 2, Step 5, at a rate of $31.17 an hour, effective January 24th, 2020, as per the blue collar contract. Please authorize supervisor to sign necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
I don't have a question for it. I just wanted to address also that this move is per the union contract agreement. It's to fill a vacancy from a retired employee earlier this year. Jeremy was the top laborer by union contract. In this bid proposal, it goes by seniority, so he is entitled to that position.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is Jeremy here?
He is not.
He's not. Okay. I know he's resting up for his first day tomorrow, right? Next item is also from Highway Superintendent Brian Adams. Please terminate Robert Walsh as sanitation laborer and appoint him as highway labor, Group 1, Step 3, at a rate of $24.91 an hour, effective January 24th, 2020. Please authorize supervisor to sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Again, not a question, but I will kind of go into a little detail about Mr. Walsh, who is in the back there. Bob's been an exceptional worker for the town in the sanitation department. He's also mechanically inclined. He'd be a huge asset to have in the highway department, and I look forward to bringing him up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Walsh? Next is a memo from Highway Superintendent Brian Adams. Please terminate Matthew McCarthy as a part-time sanitation laborer and appoint him as a full-time sanitation labor Group 7, Step 1, at a rate of $20.64 an hour, as per the blue-collar contract. effective January 24th, 2020, contingent upon passing drug and alcohol testing. Please authorize supervisor to sign the necessary forms for Erie County personnel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Again, this position's to fill Mr. Walsh's vacancy now. Mr. McCarthy has been an exceptional worker in the sanitation department as a part-time laborer over the last few years. He's very dedicated, hardworking, reliable, and again, he'll be a huge asset to continue with the department.
And there is a pattern to this, 3 people being promoted in highway. The promotion step goes from part-time sanitation, full-time sanitation, then into highway. So as someone leaves highway, it just creates a ripple as the senior people down in those respective jobs all move up to the next one. I happen to think it's a pretty effective way of doing things because Brian knows exactly what kind of people he's getting because they've already been working for him, first as part-time, then full-time. All in favor? Aye.
Supervisor, okay, sorry. Matthew McCarthy, you are here tonight, right? Can you please stand up so we see?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is a memo from Recreation Supervisor Lauren Massett. Kindly move to approve the attached swim lesson programs for 2020. West Seneca Youth and Recreation reserves the right to cancel or end a program or close a facility anytime for any reason, including but not limited to weather, staffing levels, attendance levels, etc. Last minute updates will be posted on the department's social media page or website. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question?
Yeah, on the question, I just want to beat Lauren to this. We will be looking for lifeguards.
I believe it's on the town website if anyone wants to apply for the applications.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is a memo from Lauren Massett, Recreation Supervisor, for the Let's Play Basketball March 2020 program. Kindly move to approve the attached Let's Play Basketball program, and I will not read the part about what we can cancel. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next is a memo from Chief of Police Daniel M. Dens. Dear Honorable Town Board, please authorize Captain Edward Baker and 1 other officer to be announced to attend the International Law Enforcement Educators and Trainers Association Training Conference March 23rd through 27th, 2020 in St. Louis, Missouri. The total cost of this training should not exceed $3,000. This is an annual training conference related to law enforcement best practices to which we have routinely sent officers in the past. There are sufficient funds in the police training course line item to cover this expense. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Dixon, may I just for a second? I just want to let you know the other officer has been announced. It's going to be Detective Serafini. He has been invited to do a presentation on behalf of the town of West Seneca. This is an international conference of police trainers, and he was selected after applying for the 2nd year as an expert on community policing, and he will be conducting courses at the event. So just congratulations for him for being selected again.
Yeah, that's outstanding. And, you know, police work is very complicated, especially when you get up to the level of a captain. So it's not at all unusual to send officers to training, and then they come back and tell the department what they've learned. So I think it's money well spent. And item 14, this relates to the purchase of the totes. Please resolve to transfer $25,112 from budget line such and such, the contingency line to budget line for the purpose of garbage totes. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So this is simply to, because the money wasn't budgeted in the budget, we had to move, we have a contingency account, and so that's how we're paying for the totes. Has Mr. Wolf shown up? Okay.
I'd like to accept the report from the town clerk, monthly report for December, from our town clerk's office. The town clerk annual report, January 2019 through December of 2019. And the report from our Jeffrey Schubert, our code enforcement officer. Somebody get the reports for you. Jeffrey Schubert, the plumbing report for the month of December 19, and that's it.
Second.
Thank you. Anything on a question with these reports? Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I move to approve the warrant. Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So, on to old business. At the last meeting, we had a question about an orange traffic barrel on Seneca Street, by the, the 400 dumps into Seneca Street. We got, basically, it belongs to the county. We made sure that the orange cone was moved out of the traffic, as was commented on by the member of the public. And then after we found out what the situation was, we got back to her and gave her answer. So, you'll see up by the podium today, if you get up and you have a question that we cannot answer right now, there's a sheet, a little card for you to fill out, and then we will get back to you with an answer, and we'll also give that answer in the next town board meeting, so that, so that other people who are interested will learn. So we move on to tabled items. Do we have is there any motion to discuss the operation logs for town-owned vehicles that we put on the table at the organization meeting? So,
No, nothing from me yet.
so, for our attorney, if we decide that we're just not gonna approve this, we're just gonna leave it out, what's the process for just taking it off?
So you either receive and file, and it can be put back on the agenda at a later date, or you would continue to table it.
Does anybody have do we wanna think about this more, or should we just receive and file it?
My opinion would be we should receive and file it. This is an old agenda, like you had spoken about before, Supervisor. And the system now, the gas that's delivered to highway is recorded electronically. The mileage, when the trucks get their gasoline and diesel fuel, it's all recorded electronically. The supervisor knows where all his trucks are. For him to send us a report monthly to tell us where his trucks are, I don't think we really need that. It's already done electronically. We could ask for that at any time.
Okay, so I move that we receive and file resolution regarding the operation logs for town-owned vehicles.
Correct, we'll receive and file that. I'm not sure what number that was on the organization minutes, but we'll update that, but we'll receive and file that motion.
Right, so you need to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The second tabled item is the rules of order for meeting of the town board. Does anybody want to move to take it off the table to discuss?
I'd like to make a motion to amend one of the items on it. I'd like to amend it number 12 on it, to read the following: to maintain proper decorum at town board meetings, no member of the public shall engage in any behavior that can be construed as violent, threatening, or overly obscene. Engaging in this type of behavior will result in removal from the meeting. In addition, any type of peaceful demonstration that disrupts the ability of the meeting to proceed for more than 30 seconds will result in removal from the meeting.
Second the amendment.
I'm not sure about the 30 seconds. I mean, it takes 30 seconds to get from your chair to the podium, so, I mean, if somebody was disrupted, a couple of who's gonna throw them out? Are they thrown out for the night? Are they thrown out for the year? I'm a strong believer that the public has a right to scream at us, yell at us. I don't like it, but, I think you should be allowed to voice your opinion, come up, and if you're not happy, tell us you're not happy. Some people express their displeasure in different ways. Like I said, none of us up here like to be yelled at, but I think you should have the opportunity to tell us you're not happy. And if it comes out in an angry tone, it comes out in an angry tone.
I agree with that. I used to boo the old board quite a bit and was in the audience. But I would make a point, we do have to go on with the meeting at a certain point, so I'm trying to put in a time frame to kind of let people express themselves, but let us get on with the meeting eventually as well. In the actual amendment, it does read too, they would be removed from the meeting. It doesn't say removed for life, removed for the year, or anything else.
And I also note that it says, a demonstration that disrupts the ability of the meeting to proceed. So, I mean, I absolutely agree that if people aren't happy, they should, get up and they can be angry. And, I know certainly in the past, people have yelled at the town board, and I frankly don't see any problem with that. I think what this is trying to address is if people are simply being so disruptive that we just can't continue with the meeting. Whether it can be refined to be read a little bit differently, but I think that's the intention, unless I'm mistaken.
Correct. I mean, like I said, I want people to be able to express themselves, but we do want to move on with the meeting at a certain point too as well. So we're trying to get that balancing act, we're writing the rules on it.
But I don't think any of us, except for myself, have been through a budget hearing, so you'll have everybody, we'll be removing everybody when we get into the budget talks.
May I jump in here just for a second? When it comes to removal of the public from a public event, you're gonna use the staff from law enforcement, that becomes a bit dicey as far as litigation against First Amendment rights. So whatever you write, I would be as liberal as you can, and also get the advice of the town attorney on what direction you wanna go there.
Well, I would say that most public bodies have some sort of rules. I mean, all you gotta do is watch, certainly a courtroom can remove somebody who's disruptive. You can see on C-SPAN, the Senate or the House of Representatives, if someone gets up and is making a demonstration during a hearing or something, they're removed. So, but does our attorney have any input?
So I was just handed this, I would like to take, the opportunity to review it. I don't know that this is analogous necessarily to the courtroom, not all courtrooms are open to the public, whereas this is a public forum. I don't think that you need a time on, 30 seconds. I think you could simply say, in addition, any type of peaceful demonstration that disrupts the ability of the meeting to proceed will result in removal, and that would allow the town board to decide then, at what point it reaches that level, as opposed to setting an actual 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes.
Chief and Tina, would changing the words from will to may and taking out the time make this a little bit more?
Make a huge difference, it's a great suggestion.
I agree with that. I think at any time, the decision of the town board to have somebody removed, such as you would have somebody at the podium who has exhausted all their rationale and refuses to remove themselves from the microphone, at some particular point, we would have to step in. But a blanket like you propose with the 30 seconds or just like that, it makes it a little more difficult on the staff. So I agree with the proposal there.
I would also add, following up on that the sentence before, you also change will to may, so engaging in this type of behavior may result in removal from the meeting.
Can I propose a friendly amendment to it then, along with what you just said? To change it to, because I do understand what Jeff's purpose is, and I think his intent is correct. To change it to maintain proper decorum at town board meetings, no member of the public shall engage in behavior that can be construed as violent, threatening, or overly obscene. Engaging in this type of behavior may result in removal from the meeting, and just leave it at that. And not have to get into any type of peaceful demonstration, disrupts the ability. don't know if we even need that, so we're just.
I think that would be prudent because you don't wanna get into the censoring of a peaceful demonstration either.
That's my feeling too, so I would, you know, Jeff, if that's okay, I would offer to end it right there and change the will result to may result, removed in the meeting, and then, strike that last sentence. Chief?
I concur.
I'll second the motion.
I was suggesting that we leave it on the table or put it back on the table or whatever you call it, and then at the next town board meeting, we'll have a complete version with that, with the language, and then it'll be added to the agenda and everybody can see what the entire thing is. Is that okay?
Yeah. So you just table it for another meeting.
All right, so we have a motion to discuss it, so we need to turn down his amendment first and then move to put it back on the table?
You can withdraw the motion and then you can make a motion to table this agenda item.
I'll withdraw the motion for now.
Okay, so I move that we put this back on the table. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we're seeing why the previous town boards had no procedure, because it's not that easy.
I believe we don't know what the level of disruption is, what we might conceive as being disruptive. You may feel that you have the right to say what you wanna say. I don't know, I have a couple
Well, by
grandchildren.
establishing the rules, we're trying to set that out later on instead of just doing accepted past practice or perceived accepted past practice.
I'm not disagreeing, Councilman, I just don't know what that level of disruption is.
Okay, Mr. Wolf is still not here, and I did not get a text from him. So we're gonna move on to issues of the public. Anybody have anything they would like to say, please step up to the podium.
Beverly Lysing, Harwood Road. I wanted to tell the public and the town board that we received 2 thank you notes, one from Seneca Manor and one from Garden Gate for the Christmas gifts that were given out and the stockings that were filled. I want to also thank the Bee and the Sun for their articles in the paper. They were well attended and pictures were very good and clear. So thank you, and everyone seemed to have a great holiday. So I hope we can do this again next year. Thank you.
Beverly, that flyer, you can have my flyer, that's for the recycle
Oh,
event.
thank you. Oh, I have something else. I'm sorry. I got a brochure from the recycle people. Everybody got it, I'm assuming. And it says in there that if you overflow your recyclable bin, that they're not gonna pick up any of the extra, and that you would be required to buy a new recyclable tote. Does that come from you? Does that come from Modern? And how much does it cost?
If you did wanna purchase another tote.
Well, I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
say how much it is, and don't say where to get it.
They're $50, and those are something that you would purchase through the clerk's office.
From the town.
The town, correct. And once we get confirmation from the clerk's office that they were purchased, we would have someone deliver that tote to you.
Okay.
Beverly, under contract, they're required to send out that second notice, remind people what is recyclable, what's not, things like that. I know if you leave a big box in top, your recycle, they'll, typically lately, they've been just pushing off to the side, they want them less than 3 by 3 squares, or they won't pick them up. So on my own neighborhood, I see them laying in the grassy area after recycle trucks leave. They just want them smaller so that you get them in their trucks too.
Oh, I understood the article on the Modern to say that they didn't want the driver, whether it man or woman, to have to get out of the truck to do it. They want to just be able to tip the totes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So it try to save manpower on that portion or something?
There's a lot into it. If you can't close your lid, some of the debris is blown down the streets into your neighbor's yard. So they want to be able to come to your house with the lid that's closed. When they tip it in your truck, the lid opens up, all of that goes in the truck. They don't want to have to pick up trucks that you can't close, or totes that you can't close the lids on, because that falls out when they lift the totes up.
Okay, does that apply to the highway department too? That if there's an abundance habitually left out, that you're not gonna pick it up, or you're gonna be kind and keep doing what you're doing?
I'd like to, just make a note that we have the best sanitation department
We do,
around,
we
so
do.
that's something we're gonna always continue to do, you know, if you have an abundance of garbage, we're gonna pick it up week after week.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, sorry.
My name's Mary Lou Dietrich. I just hate to see you go home without some more. I wanted to start early. For people that were around last year, I had hoped that we might get some basketball courts down closer to the city line. And if you have any in your neighborhood, you know how much those basketball courts are used and how much time kids get off the streets by playing. And the city line, 2 councilmen, we all went last year. We looked around, we went in the city, we looked at other places. And I had gotten comments like, let them go play at Cass Park. So in the meantime, that park has been rented out for 3 years, 2 nights a week, to South Buffalo Rugby. Now, kids from West Seneca, I don't know, maybe they belong to it, but that's an area that the kids need something else. We asked Senator Galvin to help out, we got some money, but it was spent on a piece of equipment. I think it might be handicapped equipment, but my idea on that is the handicapped equipment belongs in the town park, because some other, the child with a leg injury or something isn't gonna come from East and West Road down there. So the important thing there would have been something to give the kids to do, especially that we're renting it. I think it was $3,000 for the 3 years that we were getting rent for it. So hoping to start early to think about that neighborhood. And we rode down there, where the neighborhood is, and we didn't ride. It goes like about 4 blocks more in toward the city, which it looks like South Buffalo, but it's a big, big area for kids not to have that pleasure to keep themselves off the street. And Bellwood, the street, it's always picked up, there's no trouble down there, and that could even use another one because of the number of kids waiting. So when you're thinking about equipment and recreation and that, I hope you give it another thought. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, something I neglected to, I'm sorry.
One more. Hi, I'm Joanne Catnese. I live on Nina Terrace, and I have a couple things that I'd like to bring up. I've never been to a town board meeting. Number one is, we seem to have an optional stop sign at the corner of East and West in Angle. Nobody ever stops there. So when you're going up and you're going straight, straight toward Union Road, they come out, they don't stop, so you're like beeping the horn and other things. It's very annoying. It's not just me. They don't stop there. If you're at the top and you stop at the stop sign, you can see every which way. I'm short, I had a car, I could see. You do not have to be on East and West Road. I think that's something, I don't know who looks into things like that. Maybe those lights.
Fabulous police department.
It's not even that, but maybe something that goes around the stop sign. They have them in Niagara Falls, they're red sparkling lights, and they say stop. Or something that says this means stop, or a line, something like that.
Okay, we'll look into that for you.
Okay, that's number one. Number two is we have had sewer repair equipment on East and West Road forever. We've had the road torn up, we've had it put back together, the road's a mess. So that concerns me because I drive East and West Road all the time. The third thing is the developmental center. I don't know whose jurisdiction this is in, but no matter who I visited, called, or talked to, there's never been an answer.
To what were you asking?
So it's vacant. There's all those broken down buildings. We live across the street, directly across. We pay very high taxes. It's been like that for 20 years since we've moved in, almost 20 years. They take buildings down. I know that's the state. but is there anything in the works? Does anybody have any ideas or anything that anybody I can contact besides the guy at the Southgate Plaza? I can't remember his name, he never got back to me.
Are you talking about the Office of the Assemblyman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There has been, so it is, as you say, it's owned by the state. We have, unfortunately, no jurisdiction over it. They don't pay any taxes. That is one of the prime places for development, but it's owned by the state and it has all those residences which are full of asbestos and would have to be remediated. But that is on, after I've contacted the old Seneca Mall owner, and now the next thing is gonna be to contact, it's Empire Development, the state, so definitely our state representatives, both the assemblyman and the senator, definitely have a role to play in that.
So if there's any criminal activity, people hanging out, breaking windows, is that a state person? Is that a town? I mean, I do see West Seneca Police over there from time to time, but, you know, it's a concern. We live across the street from it.
Okay, the state assigns people to patrol that, that's their jurisdiction. However, routinely, in the 30 years I've been here, we do swing through there,
Right.
try to keep the kids out and everything, but we have limited jurisdiction on that property. So we try to keep people moving along, but it's pretty self-contained.
Yeah,
That's all I can tell you.
I mean, we used to walk back there every night. You wouldn't walk back there anymore by yourself. You'd have to have my husband or whoever. So, those are my items.
The east to west road you mentioned, that's a county road, and I believe that it's supposed to be paved this year. We've heard that a few times now, but I think this is.
I mean, they randomly pull out the stoplight, and, you know, whenever I call anybody, I always say, take a ride down there so you can see what it really is firsthand. Then they'll pull the equipment out, they'll work for like a day or two, and then it's gone again. It's been there for over a year. So, okay? Thank you very much.
But rest assured that we are, I mean, that, for me, that is a priority, is to get something moving in the developmental center. I think, it's actually more complicated than the Seneca Mall site because it's owned by the
20
state and
years.
it's got all the asbestos.
Yes, and they tested about 2 years ago for the asbestos. We were there when they were doing it, so. Thank you.
Susan Kim's 99 Covington Road Drive. So my question pertains to the recycling. We just renewed a contract with the recycling, for the recycling court. Did they make changes to the original recycling contract? Originally, that we were told if we had anything extra, we could lay it up against the side of the tote, regardless of size. Did we change the wording in that new contract?
Well, I'm not sure if the words were changed, but I know the scope of the contract did change as far as, you know, it's bi-weekly now, it's only twice a month instead of every week. They did include that the size has to be 3 by 3. They were like our highway department, the best highway department in Erie County in western New York. They were used to pick up everything too, but times have changed and they're saying.
But the new contract would state that?
The new contract says it has to be smaller than 3 by 3 and inside the tote. Before it said that in the old one, but they were like our highway department, they picked it up in the meantime. They've changed the way they work.
We have here and they actually, the owner or manager, whoever said, you can put anything that you want out there and lean it up against the side of the tote. So whether that wording was there or not, he was here physically in this room telling people that in the town.
He may have said that, but I know they won't pick it up anymore. The driver may, if you got a nice driver, he might pick it up, but for the most part, I think the driver is told to pick it up or don't pick it up. That driver probably decides on his own whether he's gonna do it or not.
Okay, so we lost that benefit, but we're paying more still.
Correct. Correct, and the things we used to be able to recycle, some of them are no longer recyclable.
But I'm meeting with Modern either next week or the week after that. I don't recall offhand, but I will ask them that question and we'll absolutely get back to you and we'll put it, you know, it'll be in the public answer too. I also plan to go to their go to their site and they want to show me, you know, the whole process of how our recycling goes and how much of our recycling they sort out and then send to a landfill.
From what they told me, it's very little that they actually sort out now. And so most of what they're doing is they're taking it to the landfill. And it does say in the literature now, if there's something in a bag of any sort, that the entire bag is going to be going to a landfill, whether or not there's something recyclable inside of that bag. So they did make a lot of changes to the contract, and I'm not sure if the public is well aware of that.
So that's a good point for the public. If you throw something in your recycling tote that does not belong in a recycling tote, it gets a very expensive ride to the landfill. So they throw it in another garbage truck and charge us a premium to throw out the garbage we should have put in our own garbage.
Their tipping fees are higher than our tipping fees, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I see Mr. Wolf has shown up, and Mr. Wolf, you have the floor. I should say that Mr. Wolf is kind of in preparation. He's the executive director of the Buffalo Niagara Coalition on
Actually,
Open
board
Government.
president.
What?
Board president.
I'm sorry, board president. I'm a member, Ms. Kim's is a member, as well as he's a former counsel to the Buffalo Common Council, as well as to the Buffalo Housing Authority, right? So, please.
I apologize for being late. Usually what takes me 20 minutes to get here, for some reason took me an hour. I just ran into one problem after another on the thruway, but I'm glad to be able to make it. As the supervisor said, my name is Paul Wolf. I'm an attorney. I'm president of an organization called the Buffalo Niagara Coalition for Open Government. And we're a nonprofit organization of citizens from Erie and Niagara County that advocate for open government issues. And the supervisor asked me to come tonight just to talk about some of the things that we like to see local governments do. And many of these things you're already doing, which is great. So I just wanted to take a few minutes just to, we kind of identified 6 best practices that we like to focus on, and then I'll throw a few other things in there as well. So the first thing that we like to see is that local governments post their meeting agendas online, certainly at least 2 or 3 days before the meeting, but that, you know, some places just put an agenda, just a 1-page agenda, and it lists topics. We ask that whatever the town board members have in front of them, that entire document be scanned and posted online so the public can see. The public should be able to see the same things you have in front of you that you're discussing and voting on. And I know that you post agenda items. I'm not sure if you post the entire packet that the town board has, but hopefully you are. Some places don't do that. And the open meetings law is very weak in a lot of ways. A lot of what we advocate for is going above and beyond the open meetings law. The open meetings law doesn't say really a whole lot about posting agendas. Basically, they say if you have a website, as best you can, you should post it online. One thing I did notice is you start your meetings by having department heads kind of report on what's going on. If the department heads are submitting a written report as part of their presentation, that should be posted online as well for the public to see. I didn't see the reports when I looked for this meeting or the last meeting. I'm not sure if that's a new thing that you're doing or something that's been going on for a while. But again, whatever reports that you have, the public should have. Next thing is posting meeting minutes. Again, the law does not mandate that meeting minutes have to be posted online. Most places do it. Some are kind of weeks behind. We encourage people to post draft meeting minutes. You don't have to wait until the next board meeting before you approve the minutes and put them up. We'd like to see them go up as soon as possible. The law says that meeting minutes have to be available within 2 weeks. So if someone asks for them, you have to give them to them. But they don't have to be posted within 2 weeks. But we like to see them posted. Even if you just put draft on it. You know, it may change, but the sooner they get up, the better. You know, like I say, a lot of places are 2-3 months behind on their minutes, and it's, you know, it's not fair to the public. Allowing citizens to speak at your meetings. I know you do that. We'd like to see it happen early in the meeting. Some places allow the public to speak at the end when you've already voted and discussed things, and that to us is kind of pointless. I mean, what you should want to hear from the public before you vote on something. And I know you do it early in your meetings, which is great. And I notice what you do, and a lot of places do, is they kind of split it up, that if you're going to speak on an agenda item, you can talk early in the meeting. But if you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, you have to wait towards the end of the meeting. We like to see it all happen early in the meeting. Even if someone wants to speak and maybe it's not on an agenda item, why make them wait, 2 hours to the end of the meeting? If you're doing public participation early, you only give people 3 minutes to speak typically anyways, sometimes 5. We like to just have it all heard at the same time instead of splitting it up. I've had to do that where I sit at a meeting for 3 hours because it's a non-agenda item and wait 3 hours to talk my 3 minutes. And I like to see everybody have the opportunity to speak earlier rather than later. Video recording of your meetings, I know you're doing that. Not all places are. And you're also recording your planning board meetings and zoning board meetings, which is great. Those are being posted for the public to see. In the town of Amherst, where I live, they do that as well. And you can't always make it to a meeting, and it's great to be able to watch it online. Fifth item is executive sessions. A lot of local governments make mistakes when it comes to executive sessions. And I think a lot of it's just bad tradition, bad habits. We see a lot of town boards go into executive session to discuss litigation. And that's really not specific enough under the law. You really need to specify, name the lawsuit that you're going to talk about in executive session, not just litigation. The public should have the right to know what legal matter you're discussing. A lot of places say going into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Same thing, not specific enough. You don't have to name the employee, but you should at least specify we're going into executive session to talk about hiring somebody, disciplining somebody, whatever the case may be. So the public just has some idea of what you're talking about. Or contract negotiations, not specific enough. If you're going to talk about a particular union negotiation, well, name the union or name the contract that you're going to discuss. So we don't like to see a lot of executive sessions. We understand you have the right under the law to talk about things in private. Doesn't mean you have to do it. I think it's abused in a lot of ways. To go behind closed doors to talk about litigation, a lot of times it's just getting an update on what's going on in a lawsuit. Well, that can be done in public. I mean, you only go behind closed doors if you're going to talk about legal strategy that you don't want the other side, to publicly hear. But quite honestly, you probably shouldn't be that involved in legal strategy anyways. Leave that to the lawyers. So we hope that if you do executive sessions, that you do it rarely. If you do it, at least have your motion be specific enough that the public knows what you're talking about. Annual financial disclosure forms. Any local government that has a population of 50,000 people or more, which I believe West Seneca is just below, has to file, their government officials have to file an annual financial disclosure form. Although you legally don't have to do it, you as a board can decide we're going to do it. And I think this has been talked about in part of your ethics update that was going on. You legally don't have to do it, but it's a good thing to do, where you list, many of you, part-time board members, the public should know, where do you make your other income? Are there any possible conflicts of you or family members for issues coming before the board? And we encourage people to post those reports online. You can go look online to see every state elected official's financial disclosure form. If you want to see your assembly member, your state senator, the governor, you can pull it right up online. But local government officials aren't required to post them online, but we ask people to do it anyways. Other elected officials do, you should as well. So we encourage you to do that. Let me talk about just some freedom of information law stuff. When I went online to your website, there is information about the Freedom of Information Law, but it's not really highlighted. We like to see right on the home page just some link letting people know that here's where you can go to file a FOIL request. I know it's there, but you kind of got to click on your document records section and then click down a little bit more. But we're glad it's there. You have a form that's there as well. Although I noticed on your form, you asked people to state the reason for their FOIL request. And I don't know if you need to do that, quite honestly. I don't know if you need to know why someone is making a FOIL request. I'm asking for information because I want it. I don't have to give you an explanation as to why I want it. So that's just one thing I noticed. Maybe you can make that a little more prominent on your webpage. I did notice that, and maybe because they're separate departments, that you can't use that FOIL form to FOIL the police department or to FOIL the courts. You gotta, make a call. It doesn't look like you can do an online FOIL request to the police department unless I'm mistaken. I didn't see a form on the police department page, but perhaps one could be created for that. Let's see. One thing that I don't see towns doing, we believe, like anything, the more you track something and measure it, the better you'll pay attention to it, the better you'll improve it. It might not be a bad idea to get a quarterly report or maybe a twice-a-year report from the town clerk as to what FOIL requests you have received. And hopefully somebody is tracking when the request came in, how long it took to provide a response, or was the request denied. Just some way of tracking these things, because our biggest frustration, and I've personally filed FOIL requests, is they can take months sometimes, and it takes a lot of times longer than it should. And if you as a board or a town clerk can perhaps dedicate yourself to improving that process, the only way to do it is to find out how many are we getting, how long is it taking, what are the most common requests, are there certain things that are being asked for that we should just throw up online to, save getting these requests. I mean, the more information you can proactively put online, the better. One thing I know that you have, but again, I think it's kind of buried, is a Notify Me link where people can sign up and get notices of meetings. We'd like to see that again a little more prominently displayed. I don't know how people find out about it. I had to type it in as a search term, Notify Me, and then I found it. So I'm not really sure where it is on your website. But that's a great way to communicate with people and let them know about meetings. So those are just the few things I wanted to highlight. I appreciate you having me here. I can't tell you, I've asked to come speak to some local governments, and believe it or not, they said, no, we're not interested. You're not on the agenda. I went to a county legislature meeting. Believe it or not, the law does not mandate that you have a right to be heard, which is crazy to me. And I know this came up in December at the end of the last board, where the public speaking was eliminated from the agenda, which I think was terrible. The law doesn't mandate it. So I've gone to county legislature meetings and asked to speak, and they told me no. You're not on the agenda, we don't have to do it, we're not gonna do it. So the fact that the supervisor has invited me here and the town board has invited me here is a good thing. It means that you folks are interested in this issue, because not every place is. And I know being an elected official is not an easy job. And so I'm not here to beat up on people, I'm just here to make suggestions. You're doing many great things here, and I appreciate you taking the time to invite me.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf, and I guess you have time for a question or two, including from the public. My question is about identifying litigation matters and when going to executive session. So I guess if all of those cases are public, then you're really not, there's no particular privacy issue or anything.
No, I mean, if you file a lawsuit, you're stepping into a public arena. The fact that you are a plaintiff or a defendant in a lawsuit can be, searched online. There's a court system that you can go to and actually type in people's names to see if they're being sued or suing somebody.
Any other questions from anybody? Anybody from the public like to ask Mr. Wolf a question?
Mr. Wolf, you said, all this putting in on the website, it seems to me that it is falling on the town clerk. Don't you think she has enough to do?
Well, a lot of this does fall on the town, where is the town clerk? A lot of this does fall on the town clerk, and I'm sure they have plenty to do. And a lot of it is already up there, so.
Okay. We're a senior citizen community, so we can't afford to hire her any help. We can only beat the woman so much.
Yeah.
You gotta give her a little leeway.
Yeah. And it's a new town clerk, right? Okay.
I just wanna say, like, the foils, we are the one, we put it online so that people can do a FOIL request online. I know it is hard to find, it goes under the town clerk section. We can put it on the homepage, none of that's an issue.
Sure.
The planning board and zoning board, I'm the one who started doing it, so,
Right.
I do agree with everything.
Great.
And Mr. Najim behind you has started doing a lot of the edits to the town website.
One thing I did notice when I went on your page to look at your agendas or minutes, it starts with like January, you gotta go to the bottom. I don't know if you could flip it that, January, February is at the top. Just a little thing, but, because when I first opened the page, I'm like, well, where is, the January 2020 meeting? Well, you gotta go past December and go all the way, down, but it's just a little thing.
Yeah, no, thank you.
On an overall 1 to 10, how far are we? We should be about an 8 or 9.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
We have an actual rating sheet where every so often we go around and we rate local government websites. We haven't done it in about 2 years, so maybe we're due for an update. But just from what I looked at and preparing to come here, I'd say you're probably 8 or a 9.
Well, you've got to give us a little bit of credit.
I am. Most local governments have a failing grade, which is shocking.
Well, yeah, but we had to pull it out of you to get that.
I'm gonna agree with Beverly. I mean, what you said is all true. I think we've come a long way since the 17s and 18 years. And it was all well and good until your 2 final parting shots on the last board that left. But we haven't seen your report card.
You're welcome to rate. What do you want to rate?
It's not there. I looked for it.
Well, I
I
don't
would
know
like
what
to
you mean.
know, I would just like to know how the previous town board ended last year.
I don't think we did it last year.
Or the year before.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've done it.
I'm gonna be honest, you come here taking shots at the boards, but we haven't seen your work.
What shot did I take?
About the closing the last meeting of last year without an opportunity for people to speak.
Isn't that a fair shot?
It was, all we did is came in and approved the warrant, just to pay the bills.
Yeah, but isn't that a fair shot? The one before that was a regular meeting, but no public was allowed to speak.
Then put it in your report.
Okay.
That's
Again,
true,
this is the hostility that we get. When you come to point out something, they take a shot right back at you.
I think you're absolutely right. As one of those people that wanted to speak at those last meetings, particularly the one on December 16th.
It was terrible.
There should never be an end of public comment.
I
ever,
agree.
at any government meeting.
I have to agree with that. I was at that meeting and I did want to speak. And the opportunity was not even given to us.
That's correct. I'm just saying from 2017, 2018, this town board, the previous town board, made some huge improvements with everything that you requested from them. But we never got a passing grade. The last mark that we've seen from you was a C+.
We haven't done a report since then.
That's a passing grade. You're not flunking.
Not according to the open government.
You got a C+. That's
C+
better than
is
average,
passing.
So that's pretty good.
Question back there?
I think instead of bad mouthing what's already done, let's think about the future.
I agree.
The other part's over and done.
I agree.
And everyone knows why those things happen.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. I have a FOIL request out to another town on an employee that was hired, asking for a job description, resume, and the application.
Right.
It's been 23 days already.
Yeah, they've responded the ones that they received.
Okay.
Where do I proceed now?
Well, generally you can wait about 30 days, and if you don't get any further response, you can view that as a denial, and you can take the next step of filing an appeal. And you'd have to, typically the appeal would go to their town attorney or whatever local government attorney. So you could give it a little more time, you could follow up with them and say, hey, where is this at? But generally speaking, unless they tell you, we need, more time and we'll get back to you by, February 12th, if you don't hear anything within 30 days, you can take the next step of filing an appeal.
Is that a formal form that I have?
It's just a letter, you just gotta make sure it goes to the right place, just saying, I'm appealing the fact that you haven't responded or provided the information I requested.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else?
Can I ask a question? The financial disclosure form is supposed to be on file in the town clerk's office. Where would you think it should be online?
Probably right up on the, either the clerk's webpage or the town board's webpage, even, right next to each town board member's information. Some local officials have started posting it online. I know, the supervisor in Hamburg does it, one of the board members in Amherst, a couple of the council members in Niagara Falls, so people are starting to post them.
And if I'm not mistaken, the new ethics code requires it also.
I believe so.
So we have to get on stick and get our forms submitted.
Usually, most people do it in March, it seems to be, but.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they created the actual form yet,
Right.
so it is part of the new ethics code though.
And we did a report where we kind of looked at other local government forms and we kind of rated them by the ones that we liked. And, some forms are very comprehensive, some forms are pretty minimal. So at our website, you could see probably 7, 8 different versions of a form. The state form is very thorough and you can modify that to be at a local level.
Sorry, we were talking, but I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, that's fine.
I was saying there are several forms available of other local governments on our website that you can take a look at.
I'm pretty sure that they actually had a proposed form that was attached to their proposed ethics code, and so I'm happy to provide it to the clerk and to all of the board members so that they can get on task with that.
Great.
So thank you, Mr. Wolf. Your points are all well taken, and we will strive to do as much as we can in the amount of resources we have to dedicate to websites.
Sure. Thank you.
So now I think it's something we forgot last time, but I guess we'll just go down the table and see if anyone has anything they wanna say. Recreation Director, Ms. Massett.
Thank you, Supervisor Dixon. I would just like to remind the public that valid resident ID card holders can begin to register for our summer day camp program on Monday, February 3rd. The department is offering 3 dates where we'll be holding extended hours for those who cannot visit us during our regular hours of operation. On Thursday, January 30th, the office will be open until 7 for ID card issuance only. On February 4th and 20th, the department will be open until 7 for both ID card issuance and resident summer program registration. Patrons must arrive by 6:45 on all dates. On Saturday, February 1st, the theme of Open Skate will be True Spirit Skate, and patrons are encouraged to wear their favorite team colors. And as a reminder, there is no open public skate on Sunday, February 2nd. We are hiring for several summer positions and holding open interviews during the West Seneca Central School District February break. There's more information on that on the website. Thank you.
I have nothing further tonight.
I have nothing for tonight.
Nothing, Supervisor.
So I'm sure for all of us, it's been a very busy, 3 weeks since we took office, and I for one have been meeting with almost all of the employees, going around tomorrow to all the buildings and grounds locations, next week to all the sewer locations. I want to ride around with the police, ride around with the highway guys. I mean, it's a pretty cool job. There's a lot of great people who work for the town, and a lot of interesting things. There's a new issue comes up every day. One thing I wanted to mention, so maybe a little discussion with the town board, sorry if you were putting away your stuff, but insurance, so our insurance policies have to be renewed on May 1st. Personally, I think it's prudent that we go to we try to get some competition in this area and go to different, a couple of different brokers in addition to the one we currently have and get them let's see what they can come up with. So the question is, do we hire somebody to coordinate that, or do we just do it ourselves? So in other words, if we just do it ourselves, the three brokers would come up with their plans, and one of them being our current broker, and they would